tonight. A celebration and time to reflect. National Indigenous Peoples Day is marked in Saskatchewan. Also, a judge approves a plan to sell 2 buildings owned by Lighthouse Supported Living in Saskatoon.
So if you look around here, there's medicines all over.
Plus, a cultural classroom. We check in with students finding their own connection with the land.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Wednesday, June 21st, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thanks for watching. Large crowds came out to National Indigenous Peoples Day celebrations right across the province today. Many people who came out say it was a day to celebrate, but also a time to reflect. Jason Warwick has more.
Saskatoon's National Indigenous Peoples Day celebrations began with the colors and sounds of the Grand Entry. Then came the fiddling, powwow dance, and other activities.
I think it's a really good opportunity for everyone to get together and celebrate the Indigenous culture, especially on the first day of summer.
There was also a party atmosphere in Regina.
Today is a representation of intergenerational wisdom, intergenerational love, and it shows the nuances of Indigenous cultures by bringing us together and letting us celebrate ourselves, and also it gives us an opportunity to bring Canadians into our circles.
Some came for other reasons as well.
I think it's important for our community to recognize the past and honor what's happened to Indigenous people and our role in it. I think the only way to move forward in a safe and secure way is to get together and understand the past.
One survivor says this day can bring back painful memories of residential school, but it can also bring smiles and joy.
I'm a survivor. I've been in residential school for so many years and all that, and this kind of brings out, kind of reconciliation, whatever they call it.
Make no mistake, this is a party. The people we spoke to said this is indeed a day for celebration, but it's also a chance to reflect on our shared history and our obligation to learn from and correct the injustices of the past. Jason Warwick, CBC News, Saskatoon.
It's a historic day for Flying Dust First Nation in northwest Saskatchewan. A traditional grass dance blessed the land where the Meadow Lake RCMP detachment sits. After more than 90 years, the Flying Dust First Nation is getting this land back. In 1932, the Canadian government expropriated roughly 85 hectares of the northeastern edge of Meadow Lake. That was for the railway, but in the end, only a sliver of land was used. Today, a ceremony was held in honor of the land transfer. The paperwork is set to be finalized in the fall. The RCMP detachment was also given a Cree name that means let's all live in peace. The union representing SaskTel workers is accusing the provincial government of privatization by stealth. Unifor represents more than 2,500 SaskTel employees, and it has been running a campaign to stop SaskTel privatization. The union's local president says the Crown has been outsourcing jobs out of province or converting full-time positions to part-time. He says the union estimates 1,000 jobs have been impacted in recent years. Unifor says SaskTel workers here are losing jobs or income hurts the provincial economy.
I think that hurts our entire province. I mean, SaskTel was built on good customer service. We want good paying full-time jobs, good benefits in this province. We don't want to see them going to contractors out of province. That money that leaves the province is gone forever. Doesn't help circulate our local economy. Let's strengthen our own economy, keep the good paying jobs here, and stop the use of contractors out of province and overseas.
In a statement to CBC, SaskTel says it uses a variety of consultants, contractors, vendors, and suppliers. It says its aim is to deliver the best products and services to all its customers. SaskTel says in regard to an example of the company using a Manitoba firm for work, it has not taken away work from in-scope employees. The Lighthouse buildings in downtown Saskatoon are for sale. A judge has approved a plan from the receiver to sell the troubled nonprofits buildings. Right now, there are about 130 people living in the two towers. Even though the sale plan is approved, there's a twist. For the first 3 months, only bids from nonprofits and the public sector will be considered. We now know one group that will not be making a bid. The Saskatoon Tribal Council already runs an emergency centre in the West End. It doesn't think a downtown shelter is the right approach.
Shelters aren't the answer right now because we're just putting heads in beds and we're not solving anything. Right? We still have people that are using drugs, and that's the issue. Addictions is the issue because you can see what's happening in our downtown area, across our city. There's violent occurrences happening, stabbings from people in psychosis. So this is a serious problem we have to address.
Arcan says the Tribal Council is busy enough running its wellness centre in Fairhaven. He says the approach to helping people with complex needs must be more than just offering beds and meals. A heavily used bridge in Saskatoon is closed indefinitely because of a fire that ignited in one of its spans early this morning. The fire department says it started on a mattress in a homeless encampment at the top of an archway. Crews used a ladder truck to get to under the fire. The fire is now under control, but the location of the fire is making it hard to extinguish.
Difficulty we're having is the void spaces are hard to get to with all the concrete and everything that's around. It's very dangerous to be going from underneath the bridge, so we've drilled holes from above the bridge to try and get into the void space to put out the old timbers that are burning as such in those spaces.
Fire crews are working with city engineers and utility workers to learn the extent of the damage. So far, it doesn't look like there's any major structural damage. More inspections will be done before the reopening of the bridge, but there's no timeline for that. The bridge will stay closed until further notice. Several bus routes will also be affected. Some high school students in Regina recently finished their final project, but it wasn't in a typical classroom. As Louise Big Eagle tells us, it was a camping trip full of cultural lessons.
Yeah, let's put those pins in first and then we'll...
It's the end of school camping trip for about a dozen high school students from different Regina schools. They've come to Echo Valley Provincial Park to set up camp.
So if you look around here, there's medicines all over, like these ones with the big leaves here.
And to learn from culture advisor Gary Gott.
Is there something stuck?
They're enrolled in a land-based program called Miskasawin Asik.
The name that we went under is called Miskasawin SK, and it's basically finding yourself or finding oneself on the land and finding a connection to the land and how you connect to it in your own way. And we educate these students on what we know from the scientific perspective and also from the cultural and spiritual and cultural perspective.
As a knowledge keeper, Gott shares his traditional teachings, including how to study medicinal plants, speak Cree, and tan hides, as well as other basic survival skills.
A lot of them have never been exposed to how to make a fire, how to canoe up, how to paddle a canoe, basic life skills, survival skills, building a quinzhee. We do all-season camping and all-season activities. We expose them all.
You want to avoid that ledge of rocks. So
The program is open to all students in grade 11 or 12 at Regina Public Schools. They have to apply to attend the classes and teachings. 17-year-old Leah Prosper attends Balfour Collegiate. She loved learning to tan hides.
Our first time fleshing the hide, we were all very sore. Like our arms were just sore in like places we've never worked before. And also when it came to like softening the hide too, that was very physical because we had to drain it, and draining it was like a whole process of us just like continuously wrapping it around this thing.
16-year-old Darius Matichuk also attends Balfour Collegiate. The grade 11 student is Cree and is finally learning his language.
Building a connection to the land and like she said, learning the language. We're taking a Cree university credit right now, and like we're learning like basic introductions, like how to say your name. For example, it would be like Tansai Darius Nitsi Gaston.
We realized by the end of it all, a lot of them have kind of woken up something inside of them that kind of reattaches their spirit to the land, and it changes them in many ways.
Campus Regina wants more teenagers to apply to the program. The high school students earn university-level credits in Indigenous studies and the Cree language. and they learn about themselves and the land. Louise Beagle, CBC News, Echo Valley Provincial Park.
A happy first day of summer. Around the world, many are celebrating the longest day of the year. In Britain, revelers prayed and chanted as the sun rose over fabled Stonehenge. Many believe the massive stones were built to match the rising sun of the summer solstice, giving the site a spiritual significance. So, what's coming for our first weekend of summer? Ethan will have your forecast after the break. The Saskatchewan Roughriders are hoping a few injured players will join them on the plane to Calgary on Friday. The team was back on the turf at Mosaic Stadium this afternoon. Coach Craig Dickinson limited a handful of starters to part-time rules today, hoping they can rest up for Saturday's game. One key player who's missed both games this year is linebacker Derek Moncrief. He's had off-season surgery and is being slowly worked back into practice. Dickinson is hopeful number 42 will be in the lineup come Saturday.
Moncrief trending up. He got through today fine. We'll see how he feels when he goes in, but we're hopeful that he can play.
What would he bring you?
Experience, and physicality as long as he's feeling good. He's a good football player. He was a priority signing for us a couple years ago, and we're hopeful to get him back 100% soon.
In response to some injury concerns, especially among Canadian players, the Riders have signed a pair of Canadian defenders. One of them, a familiar face to the Riders, Kosi Onyeka, played 8 games with the team last season.
This weather update is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz Regina, proud member of the Capital Automotive Group.
Our weather specialist, Ethan Williams, joins me now. I could get used to this non-severe weather thing.
Yeah, it is nice. And, we're just at the start of summer here. Usually this is kind of the time where we see the severe storms popping up. But we've had a real calm period this last little while. And today, even though it was the first day of summer, really didn't feel like it in terms of the heat. Lots of south and central Saskatchewan only getting around the 20-degree mark. Downright chilly in the north today, barely above 10 there. And through south and central Regina, we did hit 20 degrees today, but Saskatoon, we actually did not get above the 20-degree mark on this first day of summer. And, hitting 20 degrees or not hitting it, I guess, not all that uncommon. In fact, if you look back in the last 15 years in Saskatoon, when we take a June 21st as our benchmark with highs less than 20 degrees, we've seen 3 of them this year, 2020 and 2014 as well. In Regina, we have a little bit of a longer period that we can reference, 2000 to 2003. Using that same benchmark, we've had about 5 years that we have seen the mercury not reach 20 degrees on the first day of summer. So about a fifth of our record time. And kind of interesting when you think that, June in Saskatchewan can be quite hot, but not always, and today certainly the case. Also making it feel kind of fallish out there is the winds, gusting upwards of 50 to 60 kilometers an hour again, especially in central portions of the province along the northern grain belt, beginning to diminish now as that low pressure center begins to move away, and we are starting to see rain diminish as well in the north. But a few pop-up showers today in west central Saskatchewan, kind of along the Yellowhead corridor. We've seen a few of those, but beginning to diminish as well. Some showers, though, from a passing low pressure system to our south in the States, beginning to move into portions of southern Saskatchewan. We'll continue to see that overnight tonight before we get some clearing tomorrow morning. And finally, low pressure starting to dissipate in the north means that we're going to get some clearing in the north tomorrow as well. So everyone looking at a partly to mostly sunny day tomorrow for the most part. Then high pressure takes over for Friday, and that leaves a lot of us clear as well. And that means that we're going to be seeing winds diminish. Looking at winds generally in the 20 to 30 range as we head through tomorrow. And then as high pressure takes over closer to the weekend, looks like we're going to kind of be in that 10 to 20, maybe 30 kilometer an hour range, but definitely lighter winds than these last few days. Regina, after that, it looks like our temperature is going to be on the increase, looking to get back into those mid to upper 20s, even possibly overnight lows staying pretty warm as well. Next best chance for storms comes Monday, but at that, it's not looking like we're going to see anything too severe at this point. Saskatoon, again, a pleasant day tomorrow as winds continue to diminish for you folks, and then getting with a little bit of a humidex factor possibly over the weekend, but then things comfortable again after some storms pass by Monday, Tuesday. I know we're getting into grad season here, Sam, so a forecast like this, not only good for the ceremonies next week, but also for taking some photos as well.
You don't sweat through your suit on days like that.
Yeah, that's right, or having to sit there for what feels like hours getting photos done.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
My name? She can say my name because she...
More moments from another event in Regina's Victoria Park today for National Indigenous Peoples Day. In this tent, 2 teachers were helping people of all ages say and spell their names in Cree characters or syllabics. The instructors say there's a surge in people wanting to learn Cree, to reclaim their own language, or to learn it as a form of reconciliation. We'll be back after the break. Police say they've made progress in the fight against so-called ghost guns. They're guns made using 3D printers and can't be traced. Today, Quebec police and the RCMP shared their program in an operation to crack down across the country. It includes charges for a 29-year-old man from Regina, from whom 15 guns were seized, 4 of them 3D printed. Jennifer Yoon has more.
Police say they've seized 440 arms. In total, 71 of them were firearms that were printed in 3D printers like this. Now, this is one of the 3D printed firearms that they seized yesterday. You can tell that it's 3D printed because of the grainy texture. I don't know if you can see that. And also because there's no serial number. And as you can imagine, that makes it really difficult for authorities to track these ghost guns. Take a listen to the RCMP.
The practice put in place of a collaboration on this type of criminal phenomenon also now gives us the flexibility and the agility to do it again with much more rigor and agility.
The operation was conducted across 8 provinces, including Quebec, Ontario, and British Columbia. Police say it started with a tip from the Canadian Border Services Agency about a supplier in Quebec who allegedly was importing and reselling some of the parts needed to build a working ghost gun.
It's an outstanding operation.
This retired Montreal police detective says it's hard to measure just how widespread ghost guns are, and police will have to continue cracking down.
Emptiness never lives very long in the criminal world, so the demand is very high. So what we're going to see probably in the next few days or weeks or months, we're going to see somebody else trying to jump in and do the same kind of business.
These ghost guns have become more and more widespread across Canada in places like Calgary and Ontario, here in Quebec as well. And authorities say that they're trying to get ahead of the problem, not stay behind it. And this investigation, which started in November of last year, is one step that takes them closer to that goal. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Montreal.
Time may be running out as rescuers mount an unprecedented effort to find a missing tourist submersible with 5 people aboard. There were high hopes this morning after teams heard tapping under the ocean. But as Chris Reyes reports, there's been little progress and oxygen stores are quickly depleting.
The search for the missing vessel Titan lost in the North Atlantic is expanding and growing ever more complex by the hour. This morning, a glimmer of hope, a faint sound detected by a Canadian aircraft.
The Canadian P-3 detected underwater noises in the search area. As a result, ROV operations were relocated in an attempt to explore the origin of the noises.
One naval expert says there is a way that the passengers on board could make a sound that would send a signal to those searching for them.
If this noise is being made at 30-minute intervals, it should then be possible to lay a sonar buoy barrier, a pattern of buoys around the area where you think it might be, because these buoys will give you bearings. And it's a matter then of getting cross fixes between all of those bearings. So you should therefore be able to localize where the noise is coming from.
What makes this mission even more complicated is that the search area has now doubled to the size of Connecticut, and the subsurface search is about 3,200 meters deep. In the next 24 to 48 hours, 10 air assets will be deployed. This includes the C-130 aircraft, P-8 aircraft, some of them flying continuously up to 14 hours, searching the surface of the ocean, and then subsurface. Those assets are being deployed as well.
This is a search and rescue mission, 100%. We are smack dab in the middle of search and rescue, and we'll continue to put every available asset that we have in an effort to find the Titan and the crew members.
French and British experts have joined the Americans and the Canadians in this mission that is growing more urgent by the hour. Chris Reyes, CBC News, Boston.
2 people are dead after a multi-vehicle crash on one of Canada's busiest highways in Ontario last night. The collision between 2 transport trucks and a passenger vehicle sparked a massive fireball in Pickering, east of Toronto. One of the trucks was carrying highly flammable fuel. Provincial police say the drivers of the 2 transport trucks were pronounced dead at the scene. The driver and passenger in the third vehicle somehow managed to escape unhurt. It happened on Highway 401 about an hour east of Toronto. It's been shut down in both directions since the accident. And Ethan's back with one last look at your weather.
And after some increasing cloudiness tonight in Regina and southern Saskatchewan, we'll see some sun and cloud tomorrow morning at 15 degrees, southwest winds around 20, and they won't pick up much more than that tomorrow afternoon. We'll be around 21 on our way to a high of 24. Saskatoon will start mainly sunny tomorrow as well, looking at 13 degrees, and then things completely clearing out, looking at lots of sunshine heading into tomorrow afternoon, around 20 degrees. And again, after a couple of days of some very breezy conditions, we are looking at things starting to diminish in terms of our winds. We want to give a big shout out to the grade 4s and 5s and their teachers at Balgony Elementary School who came in for a tour of our station today. They stopped by the Morning Edition studio to record some IDs. They even came in here to get a look at the green screen in the desk. Very enthusiastic, very curious. I think the future of journalism in good hands, Sam.
I love it. They're coming for our jobs,
That's
Ethan.
right. We better look out.
Thanks.
You bet.
Indigenous fashion designers are taking a modern approach to long-established cultural designs. This was showcased on the runway at the recent Buffalo People Arts Institute fashion show. The designers displayed clothing, bags, and hats. The runway combined a diverse array of styles and designs, with some having an emphasis on wedding and grad dresses. But designers say their inspiration comes from everywhere, including modern society and nature.
I was just doing the basic lines, but as you can see, there's different designs in it, so I started playing around with that.
Growing up, I'd never seen any of this stuff, and I really wanted to bring that into our culture, into fashion. So that way our people can wear it to grads, to galas, anything like that. And I just think it would just bring a good Indigenous feel to our culture, bring it back to life, even if it's just through fashion. And I just thought that maybe I can bring that to life for our people, so that way they can look Indigenous on their grad and be proud and show their kids in the future.
This is an orchid cactus. It's a flower that demonstrates patience because some of them only bloom once a year for one day.
The designers have many more shows to attend this year. This was just one of many stops to showcase Indigenous fashion with a modern twist. And that is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/sask or subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. Ethan and I will be back with more local news and weather, but for now, we leave you with the sights and sounds of the beautiful Echo Valley Provincial Park. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.